Well, I would say fine dining for me represents as much care as a place can put into something, with the idea that the quality of the food and service is paramount. It isn't about how many seats you have or how many guests you serve. You know, there's many driving factors for restaurants, but I would say, you know, fine dining for me is the ability to commit yourself to someone or something, and just, you know, have the belief that they're, you know, the people that are making the food and serving the food and doing all the things you need them to do are just committed to doing the very best. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, white tablecloths and, you know, suits, and it doesn't have to be super pretentious or super not pretentious. It just, I would say that everybody's commitment and the teamwork, sort of the flow of service, that sort of seamless type of service that you experience more infrequently than frequently, that kind of sort of defines fine dining for me. A feeling of being taken care of.
I feel like in a fine dining restaurant, you should demand a higher level of knowledge from your server. So when you ask a question, they should be able to give you the answer on the spot rather than having to go check with the chef or go check. There should be a great deal of wine knowledge from the servers in a fine dining restaurant. And then beyond that, there should just be level of execution on the plate, consistent execution on the plate. So all the dishes should have like a compelling story behind them, and sort of, I want to say, like an ambitious set of techniques to back them up, and then they should always be executed at a high level. So not only does the dish sound interesting, but it also tastes good every time you order it.
How do you choose what goes on the menu as it changes?
There's a lot of different like things influencing my decision. Sometimes it's just, a lot of times it's just seasonal. A lot of the stuff we put on is seasonal, and when it goes out of season, we have no choice but to change it. And then sometimes I'm reacting to the clients. If I put like a mackerel dish on, the clients find a little too adventurous and maybe it's not to their taste, then I always usually overreact the other way. I'll put something really safe, like a trout dish or something that's really, you know, approachable for our guests, and then maybe a few months later I'll go back in the other direction. And so I'm always going back and forth like that.
Nowadays, my chefs and sous chefs do a significant amount of the menu planning, and then we'll usually get together and sort of discuss, you know, how the menu flows and things like that. So I would say they put together 90% of it, and then we sort of collaborate on the other 10.
So what do you think the price range of fine dining would fall under, and what constitutes that? Like, is it the ingredients that you get or how it's prepared?
Price points in fine dining, but entrees should be like, you know, from $30 to $40 depending on usually it's based on the protein you're eating. So if you're eating, you know, lobster, you should expect to pay maybe more than $40, but if you're eating sort of a piece of mackerel, you should be, you know, in the high 20s, low 30s. So different fine dining restaurants try to strike a balance depending on what neighborhood they're in or what their clientele are. So there are some really good fine dining restaurants in Ottawa that have low price points, but it's because they use some of the lesser known ingredients. You see them using mackerel, pork belly, sort of cheaper cuts of meat, but making them taste really good. And then some of the fancier fine dining restaurants will have, you know, lobster and veal and that sort of thing, and they'll be at a higher price point just because you're paying for more expensive ingredients. But actually what drives the price in fine dining is not so much the food, but the labor. What separates really good food from really mediocre food is hard work, and in good fine dining restaurants there's always a lot of cooks working long hours and they all have to be paid, so that's why the prices tend to be higher in fine dining restaurants, just more work.
What do you hope to see in the future of fine dining in Ottawa?
I would like to see fine dining branch out a little bit, and seeing the refinement of service and food and all those things in different atmospheres. You know, what a 20-something wants in fine dining, because they weren't exposed to it the way the 40-somethings were, I think the demand for that, a different style of fine dining, is going to become necessary. And I love it, and I think we're already there. There's a lot of really, really excellent restaurants in the city that don't consider themselves fine dining, but really are, because their commitment to quality and their commitment to service and their commitment to guest satisfaction is huge. And yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens.